Welcome back to another episode of Built from the Inside Out. I am very, very excited about the guest that I have on today. Her name is Alexi Turner, and she helps women reclaim her femininity. So, welcome and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Yes, that's a great question. So I have a brand called Empress Collective, and the reason why I named it that is because I believe that inside of all of us, we have the potential to become an empress. And what is an empress? She's a woman that embodies all four archetypes of the girl, lover, queen, and mother. And I wanted to bring that to the collective. So I help women with their femininity. And it all started because a guy that I had dated years ago called me and said, Lexi, there's no feminine women anymore. You need to help them. And I asked him, like, well, what is it that you feel is missing? And he gave me all these attributes that I had that he felt like other women didn't. So I really thought about that. And I had worked with a sexologist and had studied about energy and stuff many years ago. I had been a life coach for a long time, and I just kind of like niched down into this because I realized that a lot of women really needed help in releasing this kind of programming of becoming a man, really is what was happening. Women were being taught that it was more celebrated or respected to behave like a man than a woman. And that's kind of how my brand started. So I help women mostly. I do also help men as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned the archetype, so that's something I'm very excited to talk about. But first, let's go into the whole feminine and masculine energy, because like I was telling you off air that I didn't even know that was a thing, and I feel like there's a lot of people who still don't know that's a thing. So what is feminine energy and what is masculine energy?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we all have feminine, masculine energy within us, right? We have like the left side, which represents our femininity, our right side, which represents our masculinity. It's kind of this balance of giving and receiving, yin and yang, girl, boy, night, day, right? Everything in the world exists in duality, right? So feminine energy is something that is creative. It's something that is vulnerable, soft, sweet, gentle. It's kind of our energy that like experiences joy and happiness. And whereas masculine energy is more of like, let's get it done. Let's do something. Let's grow and expand and build, this, how our world is, right? It exists because men have built up the land. They have built up the infrastructures. They have built up the systems that are in place, right? So, and feminine energy is about enjoying those systems and, and helping to bring beauty to the world, I think, in my opinion, for that.
Yeah, I like that. And we all have both, right? In us, it's not that women only have feminine energy and men only have masculine energy.
Yes, that's correct. Like, for example, as a woman, if you're just operating in feminine energy, you're going to be imbalanced. You can't just lay in bed all day and that beautiful Venusian energy of like enjoying good food, good wine, good company, and being lazy, right? You can do that, of course. Like I celebrate that. I totally am a bit of a hedonist myself, but you have to also get up and do things. You can't just come up with ideas that are great and not execute them, right? You have to have that nature to also get out of bed and make it happen and go have the discipline that you need to make it happen. My favorite example is my best friend who is a ballerina. She's a professional ballerina. When you look at ballerinas on stage, they're so graceful and feminine and beautiful and seamless, but it takes a lot of freaking work to get there, right? She trains every single day. She doesn't drink alcohol. She watches her diet. She's in her dance studio all day long, training and ruining her feet and working really hard, right? She's an athlete is really what ballerinas are. They're athletes. They work really hard to get to that graceful, beautiful performance that we see that looks so feminine, right?
So I like that. And then, so we have to be able to balance them, right? We can't. So you were talking about how this guy told you that there's a lot of masculine women out there. So it's women who are probably unaware that they need to that it's okay to use that masculine energy, but they need to make the time to also step into their feminine energy, especially when they're around a man and they're trying to be in a relationship with that man.
Yeah, I think it stems from a lot of different things. I think one is that women are kind of raised to be people pleasers. So we believe that if we do something, we'll get rewarded. If we do something for a man, he'll love us more, right? But actually, men bond through doing things for a woman, and women bond through, emotional intimacy, right?
Okay.
So women think that, like, well, if I go out there and I make things happen and I work hard and I get my master's degree and all these things, I'm going to be loved and I'm going to be respected like men are. But of course, that's if you want to do that, great. But you have to also balance it with that. And you can be like a boss babe, whatever they call it, right? And still be feminine. You can still be soft and gentle and vulnerable and expressive. And I actually interviewed a friend of mine who's a celebrity matchmaker on my podcast yesterday, and we were talking about this, that a lot of men when I was dating would say to me, wow, I've never met a woman like you before. This is so refreshing. You're so vulnerable. You're so expressive. You're so like feminine and sweet and gentle. And I started to wonder, like, I'm like, every woman has this in her. I know my friends do, right? And I asked my friend who's a matchmaker, do you get the same feedback? And she said, oh my gosh, yes. I have set up my friends with great clients of mine, and I get feedback from them, and they're like, she was guarded. She hardly spoke. She didn't seem to enjoy herself. She didn't really say much. She only talked about her career. And they're not interested in like dating a cardboard box, right? They want to date. Men come to us to fill up their emotional tank, to get that emotional charge, to get that beautiful feminine energy from us. And if you're just operating in your masculine energy and trying to prove yourself to a man, and this is what I do, and this is what I've accomplished, and like these are the reasons why you should love me, that's not how they connect to love, right? They connect to love through other ways.
Right. I saw somewhere, I don't know, it might have been you. I've been watching a lot of your videos, so I don't even know where the things I'm learning are coming from anymore. But I saw that men don't fall in love through logic; they do it through emotion. So, like sometimes, like you said, there's women who are like, "But look at me, look at my career. It's logical for you to pick me over the girl who's working at Starbucks, or someone who's not as accomplished as they are."
Well, men fall in love firstly through their attraction to you. And John Gray has a great, and I also like what you say too, because men are more sensitive than women are, actually. So women, we have softer bodies, but we're stronger emotionally, right? That's, I think, why God gifted us this ability to have children, and we can bear this. We have this emotional strength to bear, right? And we hold on to the emotions every month, and we hold on to the energy of the home that we're in, and then we shed it through our monthly cycle, right? So we hold on to emotions. We're emotionally strong, whereas men, they have strong bodies, and they have soft interiors. So men are actually more sensitive than women are, believe it or not.
That's interesting.
So John Gray has a great example where he says women fall in love from the top down and men fall in love through the bottom up. So women have to be connected to you logically and emotionally to open up to you sexually to fall in love, whereas men have to start from sexually. They have to be physically attracted to you, and then heart and mind is what bonds the man together to you after that. So that's what he says.
That's so interesting. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so he has to be, attraction to a man is so important, and that's why it's important to really take care of yourself, ladies, take care of your beautiful exterior and interior, because, a lot of women think that having, like, let's say you get all the surgery done, you're so beautiful and all that kind of stuff, but your soul is dark, and you can see it. You can see it in a woman when you meet a woman who's beautiful, but like inside she's not so much. She's not so beautiful anymore. Whereas you can see an average woman who has a beautiful heart and soul and it shines through. She's way more magnetic than a woman who's the opposite, right? So it's about beauty internally and externally.
I like that. Yeah, because a lot of people, they only like, for example, they'll look at a couple and they only see the outside and they're like, what's going on there? Like, that they don't match, or how did she end up with him, or how did he end up with her? And they don't realize like it's deeper than that.
Yeah, or maybe that guy has some sort of attraction to her for some reason. You know what I mean? Like maybe she's his perfect type, but maybe to other people not so much, you know?
Yeah. And then, so before we go into the archetypes, I kind of want to go a little bit into what you said, that you had a teacher who was a Russian sexology.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. Let's go a little bit into that.
Yeah, Natalia. I actually
Okay.
learned about archetypes from her. She has a
Okay.
TikTok. She's hilarious. And I took a bunch of her workshops, and I love her stuff and her book that she has. I think she has a few different ones, but there's one in
Okay.
particular that I like. And yeah, she's amazing. I like her stuff a lot. And she introduced me to the archetypes. And
Okay.
I started, I was drawn to her. I think I started her stuff maybe back in 2015. But I was drawn to her because, well, I liked her wisdom, and it was so radically different than what we're taught here, right? We're taught in
Yeah.
America, like the book Why Men Love Bitches was really popular for a long time. And I used some of those tactics when I was in college on men, and it did not work for me. It did not work for me to be aloof and to act like I was too busy to see him. And you know what ended up happening, actually, I did a video on this, was I really liked this guy, and I was using all of these, you know, like tactics that she, you know, be too busy, have your own life, which yes, of course, have your own life, and like don't like cancel your plans to meet a man last minute. There are definitely gems of wisdom in that book, but for me, I felt like it kind of taught you to be a little bit more aloof, and so I was that way with him.
Okay.
And he ended up dating another girl. And you know, he said to me, I really like this guy. I mean, I was head over heels for him. And he was like, I didn't think you even really liked me that much. And I was like, inside, I was like crazy about him, but I was too afraid to express that and be vulnerable with him.
Yeah.
So I had a Russian friend who, she would have men just eat out of the palm of her hand. So I would like observe her, like, what is she doing? That, you know, she was attractive, you know, but she wasn't somebody that, and I don't want to like throw her under the bus here, but she wasn't somebody that you'd walk down the street and be like, oh my God, like that woman, and I want to bow down to her, right? It wasn't like this. And I say this not to like, I don't want to slander her, but you know, I think women, we put so much emphasis on looks. And she was a pretty woman for sure. She was definitely attractive, 1000%. And I would observe her, like, what is she doing that is making these men go crazy for her? And she was activating this feminine archetype. You know, she was praising them. She was a little bit doty on them. She was so feminine with them. And when I would go out with her, see, I met her when I was in college, so I was much, much younger. I thought that men wanted to, like, you know, talk about politics and debate, and like, and some of them do. You know, I think it's great to be a great conversationalist. I think that's important as well. But she was more soft and more feminine and more loving, and she would praise these men, and they just ate it up. So she was getting way more than any of the women I knew from these guys. And I thought, wow, there's something to what she's doing, instead of the American way, which is be aloof, like be mysterious. I heard advice today from this woman that was like, don't compliment a man, like just act kind of not interested in him, make him like act like whatever he's telling you or showing you is not that impressive. What? No, like, no, you cannot reject a man. The one thing men are so afraid of is rejection.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I think there needs to be a balance, because like you said, there are times when you're like, okay, I need to act this way, but then yeah, don't completely close yourself off and then make him feel rejected.
Yeah, of course he has to earn it. A man has to earn your praise. You can't just like praise him for like doing the bare minimum, but acknowledging little things he does for you is nice. And the more you acknowledge in a man, and I actually had a client before you that she started doing this with her boyfriend, and she's getting way further with him doing this than when she wasn't doing anything about, or saying anything about what he was doing for her.
Yeah, and it does work, because I even talked about it in my Instagram story one time, and someone's like, well, I'm not gonna do, you know, it was very the ego, like,
well, it's the unhealed wound of a woman that,
okay.
you know, she doesn't want to open herself up because she's been hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay, well, let's get into the archetypes. So you learned it from the Russian teacher, but they originally come from Carl. Is it Jung?
Carl Jung. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So he was this. Was he a psychiatrist or psychologist?
Yeah, I
Psychiatrist.
believe he was a psychologist.
Okay.
Maybe he was a psychiatrist, but yeah, he was a.
From Freud's time, and then from what I gathered, they worked together, and then Freud didn't believe in spirituality, and Carl did, so they separated and they went their own ways.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was listening to Jordan Peterson talk about it, and he was saying that. So he's like, some of Carl's work comes from Freud, but mainly from a different psychologist. He was like, because Freud didn't believe in religion or spirituality, and Carl did.
Interesting.
So then they went their different ways. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So he came up with the 12 archetypes.
Yeah.
But you talk about 4 for women and 4 for men.
Yeah.
How did it get condensed down to the 4?
Well, there's a book called Way of the Peaceful Warrior. I think that's what it's called. I was going to look that up before coming on here, but he talks about the 4 archetypes of men in a different way: the ruler, or I think he calls it the king. I have to like refresh my memory on that, but he breaks it down into 4 male archetypes. But I think it's just easier to condense because women are 2 archetypes typically, whereas men are 1. And it just seems to work with the 4 and the 4 that kind of combine together. This was how I learned it. I don't know like why it was condensed in this way, but I think it makes it way easier to understand because you have like the 4 you're kind of like matching together. And so
that's interesting to know that the woman is usually 2, because I was looking into it and then I found there's some like I read the Circle of Feminine Power.
Yeah.
Yes, and they talk about the 4 and 4, and then that book I just like seen a summary on YouTube. It was King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. They talk about
that's the book I was talking about. Is that Way of the Peaceful Warrior?
Maybe, yeah. I just remember the names because like every time I would do my research, everybody called them different things. So I'm like sitting here trying to figure out which one's which. So trying to learn what the characteristics are.
Yeah.
And then I found one for women and it's 7 of them. So I was like, and then Carl has 12 and I'm, me trying to figure out what I am. And I'm like, which one am I?
Because women we're more mutable. We change, right? We change every month. We have our cycles. We change having birth and having kids. Like we flow every month. Whereas men, they stay the same pretty much, right? Women, we change. Like we have multiple personalities.
Yeah.
Whereas men, like they're pretty solid in, because men are the stable, the foundational masculine, right? They have to be stable like that. And we're more fluid as women. Our bodies change more, and it's just kind of how it is. So, and also with the female archetypes, it's kind of this continuation of womanhood, right? You start off as a girl, you have your like sexual awakening, you have the area of your life or the time of your life when you want to become a queen, and then when you're a mother. So it's kind of this like continuation of womanhood that you will embody. So with the female archetypes, you're kind of supposed to embody all 4. But it's not like you'll have 25%, equal. You'll be strong in like 1 or 2, and then you have to develop. It's like your mission to develop the other 2. So if you're a natural girl lover like me, I had to develop my queen and mother archetype energy. It's not my natural state, but I now, and that's what the Empress is. She embodies all 4. And the girl is water, the lover is fire, the queen is air, and the earth is mother, the 4 elements of the spirit, right? So we have these elements within us, and a man is strong, as I mentioned, in 1. However, I have noticed that if a man is truly evolved as a man, and let's say he's a really masculine man, but he evolves his feminine nature, his spiritual nature, he can, from my observation, he can actually encompass 2 archetypes. Or if a man is a more feminine man, he can work on his masculine traits, and he can embody again 2 archetypes. So I do think, even though I was told that men only are 1, I think they can actually be 2.
Okay. Yeah, I believe that because I was looking at them and I was thinking about the people that I know, the people that are in my life, and it was so easy for me to be like, oh, this person is this for the man, and oh, this person is this. And then for the women, I was like, I think she's this, but I'm not 100% sure. So it was a little bit harder for me to say what the women were, like my friends, my family members. But the men, I was like, oh, this, I know what you are. So talk a little bit.
Pretty easy to spot. Yeah.
Yeah, more than the
Sometimes I'll
women.
like meet a guy and I like can't tell 100%, or like maybe he kind of has two different ones, but for the most part, it's pretty easy to tell who is who.
Yeah. So tell us what each of them are. Do you want to start with the men or the women?
I guess I can start with the women. So
Okay.
I guess to kind of break it down, like the girl archetype is going to be like your vulnerable self, your creative self, you're optimistic, you enjoy life, you have fun. It's like that girlish nature, right? That we have as women, and this kind of carefree nature of being able to enjoy anything, you know, and also be creative, because she is a creative woman. The lover archetype is a woman who is she's sexual, she's sexy, she knows how to move her body, she knows how to walk, she knows how to seduce, she has good body language. You know, she treats herself to the best food, the best wine, you know, she takes herself on vacations, right? She kind of like loves pleasure, right? And then you have the queen, and she's a woman who knows who she is. She has strong boundaries, whereas the girl archetype doesn't have strong boundaries. She's kind of gullible and naive, whereas the queen, she has boundaries and she has self-respect, and she knows her goals and her dreams, and she knows her vision, and she works to do it, and, you know, goes to college, and she does this kind of thing. So the mother archetype is a woman who is spiritual. She's a woman who develops her spirituality. She's wise. She passes down wisdom to her children or the community. She's a woman who's practical. She knows how to save money and spend it wisely. Whereas like the girl is frivolous with money, probably the lover too, you know. So she's a woman who is more grounded in reality and more stable. And then for the men, you have the ruler. So the ruler and the entrepreneur are the two masculine archetypes, and the creator and the manager are the two feminine archetypes of men. For women, the feminine ones are girl lover, the masculine ones are queen mother. So for men, the two masculine ones, the ruler, he is a man who likes to lead. He is driven by a cause. A lot of times he will be a politician or a military man or finance guy, something like that. Like he wants some kind of influence. He's a little bit, he's not going to be this guy that's like really outgoing, you know, he's a little bit more reserved. And we're actually doing a podcast on rulers, my friend and I, because we're both dating rulers, and they're very emotional actually, but they don't show it to anybody. They won't show it. They'll be very like this with everyone except the woman that they're with. And then they're very sensitive actually. And they can be quite difficult to deal with because they can be a bit rigid, strong-minded, strong-willed, you know, they're very masculine, you know, they have their own ideas about life and how it should be. And they want a feminine woman to kind of follow him. And again, he wants some kind of influence or power. They care a lot about their reputation. They are more traditional men. And they're more classy and understated. Whereas the entrepreneur is more of a flashy guy. He's going to be like your Andrew Tate, who has like the Bugattis and the flashy stuff. And he's an adrenaline junkie. He likes to go out and skydive, scuba dive. He's a little bit of he's like independent. He likes to go off on his own travels and adventures. He likes to come up with new ideas for new projects. He doesn't have to be an entrepreneur. And just because you're an entrepreneur as a man doesn't make you an entrepreneur archetype. I just want to throw that out there. But he's somebody that likes to explore. He's like the explorer. And he has a hard time being faithful because he does like new experiences. So he needs a woman who can kind of ground him and like support him and accept him for who he is, which all men need. I would say that all men need acceptance for who they are. That's key to a man and falling in love. But he's a man that is a visionary, but he likes to be flashy a lot of the times with what he has. And he likes to have fun. He doesn't care so much about having a bad reputation. He wants to enjoy his life, right? Manager, a manager archetype is a man who you'll see these guys. They're more creative. They'll be like your actors and your orators, your public speakers, your guys on the podcast, stuff like this. They're men who want a strong woman by their side. They need to be kind of like influenced by a woman or inspired by a woman. They will be a champion for a cause. They like to social climb. They like to be in the in crowd. They like flashy stuff as well. They love luxury, but a lot of times they have a hard time because they're more feminine. They have a harder time like working for it and being disciplined. It doesn't mean they will always be that way, but it's kind of a common trait. They like status. They like going out. They like having fun. You know, they're kind of similar to the entrepreneur in a way. But they need a woman by their side to really develop their potential.
Okay.
And then you have your creator. These guys are going to be like your homebodies, also your visionaries. They're going to be the smartest one. They're also more spiritual. They're smart, spiritual, quiet. They'll be like musicians, engineers, that kind of thing. Inventors, you know, like Albert Einstein. They're going to be the men that are kind of like more of a mama's boy. Well, also manager archetype are mama's boys, but so are creators. Creators are kind of looking for their mother in a way. They need a woman. And they don't like going out into crowds. They kind of like to stay home. They like to be in their own head and their own ideas. And they want a woman to support their ideas. And they need a woman who can take their ideas and help them to bring it to reality. So I have a friend of mine who's married to a creator. He's like a pretty successful musician, and he's toured with Michael Jackson, like lots of big names. And she's very dominant and masculine. And she even said to me, all his job to do is to create. She works. I mean, they both work, but she pays the bills. Like she manages the bills of the house. She does all the other stuff, and his job is to create. And she actually books him his gigs. She manages his, the money he makes. Like she manages his price. She negotiates his price. She finds the gigs. She talks to the people at the gigs. He's quiet. He's not going to do that, you know? So they need a woman to help them bring their vision to life.
I know a couple like that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
This episode was brought to you by BCN Supplements, our all-natural supplement company. First off, we have our hydrolyzed collagen. This is a 4-in-1. It comes with vitamin C for better absorption, hyaluronic acid, and biotin. So this is good for your skin, your hair, your nails, and your joints. And this is for both men and women. Next up, we have our Immunity, which is a 7-in-1 vitamin. It has vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, echinacea, elderberry, black pepper, and garlic bulb. So this will give your immune system that extra boost. And lastly, we have our natural pre-workout. It does have 325 milligrams of natural caffeine from green tea. It is sweetened with stevia, and its purpose is energy, focus, and endurance. And for our listeners, we do have a discount code. If you visit our website, www.bcnsupps.com, you can use code BUILT, B-U-I-L-T, for 10% off. Thank you so much for listening.
So, okay, so those are the 4 for the men and 4 for the women. So going back to the 12, is it, so because they all come from there, right? From the 12 originally? Yeah. So whenever he put that out, was it like certain archetypes are specifically for women, or can both men and women be that type of archetype? Like he has the magician, the hero. I forgot what other ones he has, but is it?
So the female version of the creator archetype is going to be the girl archetype.
Okay.
Yeah, the girl lover. The female version of the entrepreneur is going to be the queen lover archetype. The female version of the ruler archetype is going to be the queen mother archetype. And the girl version of the manager archetype is going to be the girl mother archetype.
Okay. So which one? So, and then you also talk about how there's like the queen and the king, they don't go good together because they both want to be the leaders and the alphas. So there's like a specific archetype that goes best with your archetype?
Yeah, you need polarity, right? So the best match for the ruler is going to be the girl lover. She's the most feminine.
Okay.
The match for the entrepreneur is going to be the girl mother, because he needs a woman because she's got that mother energy in her. So the practicality, he's a little bit frivolous and likes to explore and stuff. He needs somebody to kind of like hold down the fort and we see this in like Richard Branson. He's traveling, he's running his business, all this stuff, but his wife stays home. There's a picture of him traveling, and his wife's like sweeping their estate on the island they live in, you know? So they need someone to like, even Cristiano Ronaldo, I think is his name, and Georgina, girlfriend, she went back to school. He's an entrepreneur. She went back to school to learn about finance so she could manage the finances, because that's what the mother archetype does. She manages the money. So that's what's best for him. And she has that femininity of the girl that the entrepreneur needs. And then for the manager, he likes the queen lover. He likes the spicy woman. So if you want to get a manager archetype, Why Men Love Bitches is a great book for that specific man, not probably for the rest of them. Definitely not for the ruler creator, pretty much. And the creator needs a queen mother archetype. He likes women who are more masculine because he's so feminine.
Okay. Are you familiar with the 7? With the 7 different ones?
Not really.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you like where you think each one fell under.
Do you know the 7 ones?
So I know they have the maiden, which is the girl. I know that one's the girl. They have the queen, but then they also have the huntress, the sage, the mystic. They have the lover, the mother. Oh, that's
I would say the sage and the mystic would fall under the mother, because the mother is the
Oh, really?
Yeah, because she's spiritually evolved, right? Maybe the huntress would be the queen, but the sage and the mystic would be the mother.
Okay. Which one? I said I was going to ask you once we were live. What, from the little that we've known each other and that we've interacted, what would you say I am?
Well, I'd say definitely a girl, because the girls like the color green.
Oh,
and you're wearing green, and your background's green, and you seem very girly. And you mentioned to me that you're a Libra. For all the astrologer people that like astrology, Libras are ruled by Venus, which is the most feminine. Yeah, maybe girl mother.
Girl mother.
Like you seem kind of grounded, and like I would say, do you watch Sex and the City? No, you never seen it?
No, I've seen the movie and I've seen a few episodes because my roommate, when I was in college, she used to watch it, but I never got into it.
Okay. Well, Charlotte is a queen, or I'm not a queen, I'm sorry. She's a girl mother.
Okay.
So I kind of like use her as an example. So
I'll look her up.
Yeah. You have the girly nature to you, but you seem also like you're, I mean, I don't know you personally, so I can't really say, but you seem maybe more grounded and even keeled. You know, girl lovers are typically like really loud or just kind of like, I don't know you in your personal life, but
I'm very introverted.
Yeah, I would say you're probably like a girl mother archetype.
Okay. What about, well, I know you don't know my husband, but so the girl mother goes with who? With which one?
The entrepreneur. So he's going to be a man that's more masculine man that likes to lead. He's coming up with ideas. He likes to travel, do things. You know, he might be a bit of a spender, so you might be the person that kind of like manages the household money.
Okay, that's so funny. Okay, so that's another question I was going to ask you, because for the longest time I thought I was the queen archetype, and like I was like, am I not? And then because I was very driven for a while, but I think it's because I was in survival mode. And I had this like thing the other day where I was like, I don't think I'm a queen. I was like, I think I'm, because I feel like, so I graduated college, high school, went to college, graduated early in like 2.5 years, went on to get my master's. I had like a leadership role. I was the safety director. Like I was doing all these things. I did pageants, fitness. And so that's how people knew me. Like I was a very driven person. And so like when I came across the archetypes, I was like, I think I'm a queen. But then the more I looked into it, I was like, what if I was just acting that way because I felt like I was on survival mode? And I, you know, from my childhood, I come from very low income and I just never wanted to go back to that. So that's what drove me. And then also my mom would be never depend on a man, and just childhood trauma. and all that stuff. So I was like, what if that's not who I am? So is that something that's possible?
Yeah. So that's when I say like we have our natural archetype and then our environment, like or our karma, our mission is to develop the other two. So like for example, my sister is a queen archetype and she's always been a queen since forever, that's her nature. You know what I mean? So it's her nature to be that way. She got her master's degree, she manages hospitals, like she's this way because that's her nature. She likes it and she's like that, right? I'm a girl by nature. I'm a girl archetype. It's difficult for me to be in my queen energy. I can do it, and I've had to do it because I've had to support myself living in New York City, and I've had to develop that. I've had to develop boundaries. I've had to develop the drive. I mean, I was driven as a kid because my mom pushed me in sports, so I was a competitive athlete, and my mom was very much a strict parent in that way. But my nature is not really. I don't get up and go at 6 a.m. and I'm like, like I have a friend, actually, she's a friend / client, but this woman, she works and works and works and loves to work. And if she's not working, she's depressed and she's driven and she's full of energy and that's her nature, right? Her nature is not to be a girl archetype. I actually have to help her into that energy because it helps her in her relationship to be more soft and gentle because she's really this high-strung career woman, but that's how she is, So you can develop other archetype energies and have that be a part of you. And it's good to know boundaries and it's good to have goals, of course. It's good to have a vision for your life. And sometimes we have to develop that because we're in survival mode. But then, when you're kind of like in your neutral state where you are now, think to yourself like, well, what do I truly want to do? Some women will be like, well, I always thought I wanted to run a Fortune 500 company, but actually I want to be a dancer. That was my dream, something like that, right? But they had to do the other thing to get the money to pay for the other thing, right?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because I always felt like I had to make a lot of money because I never wanted to depend on a man because how I saw my mom and how her life was with my stepdad. And like, I was just so traumatized. I was like, never. And I was so scared of marriage. And I was like, never getting married, never having kids. But now that when I found my husband out, and then around that time is when I found the whole, started learning about femininity versus masculinity. And I'm like, I'm very much in my masculine. I need to calm down. And so, I feel like I've always searched for my purpose. And I've done a bunch of personality tests trying to figure out what I want to do. And something that I've always loved is learning. But I was like, what am I going to do with that? Like, what, like I can't just sit here and learn stuff all day. And then when I took there's a quiz for the 7 archetypes and it came out the sage. And what it said, I was like, yeah. And so, it says you can be a teacher, you can be a coach. Like you can make money out of it. So I was like, oh, this is so interesting. So the sage, you say, will fall under the mother?
The mother, yeah.
Huh. Okay. Yeah. My mind is blown right now. Identity crisis. No, just kidding.
And men like when we need them. They like to feel needed. They want to feel useful in society. And like I said, men fall in love by the things they do for you. The ways they invest time, money, and energy into you, Yeah.
So from that book, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, which one would you say the entrepreneur is out of those?
He is the King, Warrior. I can't remember. King, Warrior, Magician.
Because the warrior was like the trailblazer, like the very strong-headed, no pain, no gain type of mentality. Because I feel like that's what my husband is.
I think the magician is the creator. The king, of course, is the ruler. The manager is probably the lover. So I'd say the warrior is probably the entrepreneur.
Really?
Wait, is that what we just said?
So from what I remember from the video I watched, so the king is the ruler, and then the trailblazer or the warrior is very like strong-headed, very like he could become a workaholic.
Yeah, that's probably the entrepreneur. And then I would say that the magician is the creator and the lover is probably the manager, because the manager is more of like a Don Juan type. He's more of a You know, he writes love letters and poems, and he gives grand gestures of love. So I would probably say he's the manager.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. I could have sworn, like, at first I was like, oh, I think my husband and I were the queen and the manager. And then I was like, no, the sage makes more sense. And I was like, but I don't know what that falls under. And then I have a friend, and she's very much, she has a very fun personality, but she's also very driven. So I was stuck on her. So I had her take the test, and it said huntress. And I was like, that sounds very much like a queen. Is
yeah,
it?
I would say the huntress is probably a queen. Yeah, because she's
Okay.
hunting for something, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I'm like mind blown right now. I need to go back and and look at everything again. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Girl mother.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so let me see what other questions I had. Okay, so for the queens, they're very much in their masculine, right? Is that the only archetype that's mainly very much in her masculine, or is there another one?
The queen and mother are both masculine. But when you have the girl mother, she's feminine masculine. When you have the lover queen, she's feminine masculine. But when you have the queen mother, she's the most masculine woman. So like Hillary Clinton, for example, is the queen mother archetype. Or Ruth Bader Ginsburg is the queen mother archetype.
Okay. What advice would you give to someone like that to kind of step into her femininity and not feel guilty about it?
I don't know if they want to.
Oh, really?
I think queen mothers kind of like being the boss.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's I do think to some degree that there needs to be a healthy balance of male female power in the world.
Okay.
And decision making and discernment and all these kinds of things, leadership, right? And I think for a lot of queen mother archetypes, they like being driven. They like working. They like their, I do have a client of mine who she's very much a queen mother, but she's also feminine, but she doesn't really like feminine activities because she likes to work so much, and that's her nature. I'm not going to tell her she's wrong because she's a woman, right?
Right. Okay.
But ways you can be more feminine is finding ways to relax. Dancing is a great way of being creative, writing, morning pages, taking a bath instead of a shower, finding ways to relax, getting a massage, finding ways to enjoy your life, being soft and gentle, not being so judgmental on yourself and other people, being more accepting, and not being so rigid, but allowing life to flow through you, like these kinds of things.
Okay. I'm still sorry. I'm still stuck on the guy one because I'm thinking I never saw my husband as an entrepreneur type. So now I'm wondering, like, is he not? Because I don't feel like he's very flashy. Like I have a cousin and him like 100% entrepreneur type. Or they're different levels.
It doesn't have to be 100%. Like he doesn't have to fit all of the things. But the entrepreneur definitely, I would say he's an adrenaline junkie. He likes to have new experiences and travel and explore. He's a bit of an explorer. So he doesn't have to, be flashing the latest stuff, but, they do like to come up with new ideas to make money. They can also be like visionaries, like a creative archetype would be.
Okay. I don't know because, I never thought of him that way. When I read the warrior or the trailblazer one, I was like, oh, that's 100% him. But then I was wrong about mine. So I'm like, like my mind is blown right now. So another thing. Oh, so you talked about cycle syncing earlier and how we should work on being all four of the archetypes. I saw this yesterday and my mind was blown. That's how I am. Like I learned something new and I'm like, oh my God. And then I want to share with everybody. So I saw that when you're on your cycle or, since it's 4 phases, you can also like the archetypes, like so it was saying, let me pull it up so I don't tell you the wrong thing. But it was kind of like when you're in your, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you can keep going.
And I was gonna say, so it said like whenever you're in your menstrual phase, that's like your sage phase, and then whenever ovulatory phase. I don't want to tell you that wrong. Let me look it up. Okay, so it said follicular phase. That's the girl, because that's when you're more like you want to interact with people more. You're happier. Yeah, and then it says ovulation mother, luteal enchantress, which I'm guessing is a lover, and then menstrual the sage, or what would the?
I have to think about this. I would say the
Okay.
sage is definitely when you're on your period, because you're more wise during that time. You're more connected to your intuition during that time.
Okay.
And then when you're coming out of it, I would say you're preparing for your plans for what you're going to do to like, this is like hard because, the girl archetype, when you're ovulating, you're more attractive. That's when you're obviously going to get pregnant. You're more frisky. You're going to be like much more in your girl. But that's also the time when you should be like going after your dreams, right? Like a queen would. So, and then after that time is when you like kind of wind down, and I don't know, maybe the queen would be the time after your period, and then girl, and then, I mean, I don't know, because then lover wouldn't make sense either after you ovulate. Lover would also feel frisky during your ovulation. Yeah,
I was gonna say I would feel like lover because that's when you want to make the baby, but then
yeah, that's true. Ovulation, maybe ovulation is lover. Maybe before ovulation, your girl, lover, and then maybe after ovulation, queen, and then mother when you're on your period.
I just found this yesterday, so and I was like, I don't know if this is accurate or not.
Basically, it goes like in this cycle, right? Like when you're on your period, your hormones are really low. You have low energy, low estrogen, right? And your body is needing a lot of rest. And I actually have a workbook on this, on herbs and stuff to use for like, the proper way to cleanse your body when you're on your period. And it's a time when you're most connected to your intuition, when people should be doing things for you, when you should be resting. And then when you come out of your period, that's when your hormones start to rise. So that's when you should plan and like decide what you're going to do. And you're like getting back into the world, and then when you're ovulating, your waist actually shrinks, your face becomes more attractive, which is interesting. You become more attractive for like mating. So you should be out there mating. It's the time where you can ask for favors and, where you can get a raise and people are more attracted to you. And then your hormones again start to dip after that. And that's when you start to like kind of like wind down. And it's like, this phase of, it's like a roller coaster,
Yeah, but and cycle syncing is something that I recently learned as well. So when I saw the two being put together, I was like, oh, that's so cool. I never thought of that. Like maybe if someone struggles, like maybe they like can kind of think to work on that archetype during that time of the month. Maybe.
Yeah, something like that. That could work.
Yeah. And then another thing I wanted to ask you. So I heard, I saw one of your videos on TikTok where it talks about the word submission and how a woman should submit to the man. And I know a lot of people get triggered, but I love the way you explained it because it makes perfect sense. And I want you to explain it, please.
Wow, that's a loaded question. Well, men are technically leaders, there's like a fine line in this, because I think women, we do influence our husbands, right? We do influence them, right? They say that the man is the head, but the woman is the neck that moves the head. So you should marry a man who you respect first and foremost, right? You respect him, you respect his wise leadership, his wise counsel, like his vision for where he wants to take the family, his goals, his dreams, right? And you submit to that vision, and you are a helpmate to him, just like he is helping you. You're a helpmate to him as well to build this vision, right? So you can't have like two people like fighting, being like, I want this vision. Now you have to be looking ahead in the same direction as that person. And one person has one role, the other person has the other role, right? So submitting to a man is about trusting his guidance, trusting his leadership, trusting his vision, where he wants to go, what he wants to do for work. Because a lot of times you'll see, even like my clients, the wife will call and be like, my husband wants to change careers, he wants to do this, and I don't support it. And she stops trusting him. She doesn't respect him. She doesn't believe in him, all these things, right? That's going to emasculate him. And that's going to make her dominant and in charge. And then he's not going to fulfill his role as a man, right? So men need to feel respected, right? Even in the Bible, it says men need to feel respected, women need to feel loved. Now, just because a man is a leader doesn't mean that a woman doesn't have a say in the house. It doesn't mean that she doesn't have some kind of, we also have actual wise leadership. We're the spiritual conduits of the home. So we're also supposed to guide our husbands in a way as well, right?
Right.
But submitting to a man is not about like, I don't know, this idea that you're like totally serving him like you're his servant, right? But you're submitting to him out of respect, that you respect him as the man, that he's going to provide, lead, and protect you in the family.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because I feel like a lot of the people who get mad at that term probably come from maybe like not healthy, like their parents' marriage wasn't healthy. So then they saw maybe the mother getting taken advantage of or something along those lines. And you're at the yeah, and the Bible does say like be submissive. And like I was telling you earlier, I was raised in very traditional Mexican values. So my mom she was very about everything the Bible says, and she would tell me, the Bible says you're supposed to submit to your husband, and the woman is the helper. And I remember thinking like, why can't he help me? Why do I have to help him?
But they do help you, right? But that's why you have to marry a man that you respect. Because
right.
you can just marry any man and submit to him. If he's like, if he is dumb and is not good with his money and his life, he's not responsible, all these things, how are you going to submit to a man like that? You can't do it, right? But he is helping you because he's going out there and he's working, he's providing, he's being responsible, he's taking care of the bills, he's providing you a safe structure for you to care for the children, for you to pursue your hobbies and your passions that you want to do, for you to eat food every day, for you to take care of your children, right? Like he is doing for you. It's an equal like support system, right?
Yeah, I agree. But I think back then it was because it was like the boss babe and the independent woman was being pushed so much that I was like, why can't I be the one that goes out and does the things? And once I got older, now I'm like, nope, you got this. Yeah, but yeah, I love how you explain it, how like you have to pick the person that you actually respect and that you can trust to make the good decisions for the household. Because a lot of women, I feel like they don't think about that sometimes. They're just like, oh, I was attracted to him, and then later they have problems because they don't really put a lot of effort into the choosing sometimes.
Yeah, they don't know, like, like let's say you're going out with a guy and you really like him, you're attracted to him, and you're drinking with him all the time and partying with him all the time, and he's calling out of work to spend time with you, whatever, at the time you're like, oh, this is fun, he's putting me number one, whatever. But then you realize, well, he's not very responsible. He doesn't have a mission in life. He's not driven by a cause. He has no purpose. He's just kind of floundering around, right? Those are going to bleed into the relationship,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I thought that was like a really good point to make, because I've seen so many women get mad at that term, and I've tried to explain it to them, but I feel like you did a really good job of explaining it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And then there's another, before I forget, I didn't write it down, but so whenever I was like doing the search of who am I, I saw a video and it was talking about the 7 archetypes. So she went more into the sage, and then she would put each archetype with the Greek goddess, and so she put the sage with Athena.
Yeah.
And so I looked up what Athena was, or what she did, and it says that she would like counsel or give advice to the hero. And in the way she explained the king, warrior, lover, magician, the warrior or the trailblazer could also be called a hero. And so he would come to her for help with the war strategy. It says she wouldn't help him physically, but she would help him with like the strategy for him to go out. And I was like, that's so cool. I was like, but now I'm like, yeah.
She's the goddess of wisdom. And my client, who's a queen mother, she is an expert at strategy. That's what her gift is strategy. That's what she does for work. She became a millionaire from her strategies that she comes up with. Like, that's her gift, and my great grandmother, I guess you could call it, was a woman named Nancy Ward. She was a high priestess of the Cherokee tribe. And she would have prophetic dreams actually about impending wars and tensions going on and stuff. And she was a diplomat. She would help the settlers with farming and culture and all these things. And they loved her so much that they didn't burn her town. And she would give wise counsel. She was the only woman allowed on board of chiefs. And they really respected her because of her connection to spirit, her wisdom, and how she was able to like really merge the cultures together and like help the people, right? So she was a really one of the presidents, I think Roosevelt wrote about her in one of his books. Like she was a really important person in the evolution of, American society and history. So, like I said, as a woman, I don't want women to think that I'm telling them to totally abandon their nature and their gift that they were given to be a feminine woman to attract a high value man, right? Like I have so many clients who call me and they ask me the funniest questions, like attract a nice man if I have a job? And it's like, yes. You don't have to like stop working to be a feminine woman, or like, should I stop going to college? And there's one girl online telling women to lie about your job and what you do for work to attract a high value man. And I'm like, no, you're building a relationship off of deceit and lies. He's not going to trust you. And you shouldn't date a guy who's not going to accept you for what you do. You have to lie about your success to get a man. This is not right. That's not the right way, correct way. You need to find the correct man who's going to elevate you. That's what it is. Men are here to elevate us, not to like stop our dreams and like hang out at home and like be submissive to him and let us dictate us around. And that's not the correct way either.
Yeah. But I understand where the confusion comes in, because when you first stumble into all of this, especially if it's online and you see a lot of different videos from a lot of different people, and so you start wondering, like, so the man is supposed to be the provider, he should be paying for stuff, and then you're like, okay, well then here in the US it's very common that the woman helps. So then you're like, should I not be helping? So, and so you kind of get confused and you're like, what do I do? What am I doing something wrong?
True. Well, men fall in love through, like I said, investing time, money, and energy into a relationship. So he needs to earn your love. I don't mean earn by like paying lots of money, but he needs to earn the right to be with you and prove himself to you that he's responsible, successful. He's giving. Like I saw a podcast of Jay Shetty and his wife. And when they first met, he was broke. He wasn't this big podcast guy. And apparently he worked for an entire month to be able to take her on this like really special date that he had planned for her. And she said later that she would have just been cool going down the street and grabbing, a burger or something, right? But he put all of that effort and energy, saving the money, taking her on the date. It meant a lot to him. That was a huge investment for him, even though he didn't have a lot of money, right? So that's what is important. Not these, you can find a rich man who's going to take you to the nicest restaurant. If he's a millionaire, he's probably taking 10 girls to the same nice restaurant. It doesn't mean the same thing to him. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the level of investment with each man is different, So maybe, I don't know their dynamic, but maybe in the beginning of their relationship or somewhere in their relationship, maybe she sort of helped him, or not helped him, but you should never help a man pay his bills, right? That's not okay.
Yeah.
But like, maybe she bought dinner once or twice or something, who knows, right? But now they're married, they're in a really great relationship. He's successful, and I'm sure he's providing her a really great life. And she, and this is kind of like the tricky part too, is I know that there's this idea, like, don't be Barbara the Builder, don't help a man build. And
yeah, you see that a lot too. Yeah.
I have several couples in my family still happily married. The men became millionaires. They all married in their 20s. Now, the men always provided for the woman, of course, but they didn't have the level of success in their 20s that they have now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to my uncle, who's worth a lot of money, huge company. He's on the board of an Ivy League school. He's connected to all these millionaires, billionaires. And I asked him, do you see this a lot where men, you know, build their career and stuff and they leave their wife for someone younger? And he said, I've never seen it. He's never seen it.
Really?
So I know it exists. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I know it exists. But there's so many more elements to a man leaving his wife when he gets success other than, oh, she just helped me build, I'm going to get rid of her. Like maybe they weren't compatible. Maybe she wasn't feminine with him, or maybe she wasn't soft and gentle. Maybe she was, you know, maybe she complained a lot, or who knows, you know, maybe they just fell out of love. I don't know. But I don't think it's wrong to date a man who is on the up and up, as long as he sees you as his dream woman. That's the key. And that's where the Jay Shetty story is important, because even though he was building and he wasn't where he was at, he put in all that time and effort to take her out on one date because she was the dream woman, right? He's not like at the success now, like leaving her for someone else, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's so important, because I do hear people saying, like, if you date a man who's not where he wants to be, you're probably not his dream girl. You're just the girl that he could get at the moment. And then once he gets there, he'll leave you for the actual dream girl. But going back to what you said, how much effort is he putting into you? That should tell you if you are the dream girl or not. And I also hear a lot of stories like the woman paid for his college, and then after he graduated, he left her for somebody else.
Yeah. That I don't support. I definitely do not support paying for a man's college. Like, no. Like the families in my family who became very wealthy and successful and are still married to this day, the woman never paid for like nothing, you know. The men always provided. They just didn't have as much as they have now. Right?
I think that may be what the difference is. Like the woman doesn't actually contribute financially. She lets him do it, but she's like, maybe he's like cheerleader, believing in him or pushing him to not settle, kind of thing. Like a different type of support that's not financial.
Right.
Maybe.
Right. Yeah, emotional support. I believe in you. Like, I'm going to cook you dinner because you worked so hard to pay for, you know, even though we don't have a huge house, I still appreciate the house you've given me. And you know, all of my exes tripled their income when they were with me. I don't think men are ever really at a place where they're like, I've reached the pinnacle, unless they're like 50. Even Napoleon Hill wrote in his book, Think and Grow Rich, that men do not reach their potential until they're 42 to 52. Right. So what are you supposed to do when you're in your 20s? You want to get married? Marry a 45-year-old? You know, like that's not I mean, maybe some people, sure. But, you know, like I said, all of my exes tripled their income. They got raises, bonuses. They changed their jobs. They got like better jobs. Right. When they met me, they were doing well. They were making six figures, but they grew and grew and grew from my energy. I gave them my support. I gave them from the dynamic that we created in the relationship, and they got more successful, right?
That's so interesting. I think I saw a video of you talking about that. How I think like when he plugs in, he gets your energy.
Yeah, they need that feminine energy. It brings energy to their solar plexus and it builds their drive. You know, and when men are with one woman, they're not like all unfocused and like all over the place trying to date. They're like stable now, and they get the support, they get the feminine energy, they get what they need, they get their emotions met. So they're going to be more focused at work, and they have now someone to provide for. They're going to be more motivated, right?
Yeah, I like that. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think those are all the questions I have. So if people are you doing life coaching currently or no?
Yes, I do coaching for women and men and relationships. I also help women to build their brands online. So I started doing brand building for women who want to do the same thing as well. So I do a bunch of different stuff. And if you have any questions, you can just send me an email at info@alexiturner.com. And yeah.
Okay. Can they follow you on social media or not yet?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, my TikTok handle is Empress Collective. I have a new podcast coming out called What Women Think, so be on the lookout for that. I have Instagram, Alexi Turner, and my YouTube channel as well that we will be launching. But all of that will be on the website on alexiturner.com if you want to find the handles there.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on and
Thank
talking
you
to
for
me.
having me. It was such a great
Yes, of course.
dialogue. Thank you so much.
Yay. I'm so excited. Like I said, I've been following you for over a year now. So whenever you said yes, I was like,
Ah! Well, so great to be here. Thank you for reaching out.
yes, of course. And for the people watching, if you guys liked it, make sure you subscribe, you give it a like, and share it with someone who you think might need to hear this. See you on the next one.
Thank you for tuning in to Built from the Inside Out. If you enjoyed this episode, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who could benefit from it. Remember to subscribe to our podcast to stay connected. And here's a special treat for our loyal listeners. Use code BUILT at www.bcnsubs.com for a 10% discount on your next order of BCN supplements. Thank you for being part of our supportive community. We're glad you're here, and we hope you'll join us again in the next episode of Built from the Inside Out.